A few months ago, I celebrated the start of 2023 by buying a bunch of 2x2x3s and then solving them for 20 minutes and 23 seconds, as one does. But now I have a problem. I already had a 2x2x3 that I was perfectly happy with, and now I have 4 more of them that I don't know what to do with. Originally, I considered sending them back within the return window so I could get my money back, but that feels a little bit like cheating. I could just leave them as part of my collection, or even give them away, but those options wouldn't make for a very good video. I think a 2x2x3 barrel would be really fun. It kind of has the perfect shape for it, but I want to do something that uses all 4 of these 2x2x3s, not just one of them. Okay, scratch that. What if we took 2 of these cubes and then fused them together somehow? We could do it kind of like the Siamese 3x3s, where we basically just glue these 2 sets of pieces together like this. It would definitely look really cool, but it would restrict the movement quite a bit. You could still turn all of these sides right here, but you couldn't turn this one middle layer, which does make the cube quite a lot less interesting to solve, unfortunately. So instead, we could kind of do it more like the fused 3x3s, where they're kind of attached at the corner like this. That way, since you only have one piece glued together on each cube, you're not actually restricting the movement at all, and both cubes can solve just like normal. I think this is probably my favorite idea that I've had, so let's try it and see if it works out. The first thing I'm going to do is pop off the caps on the 2 pieces that I want to glue together. And the reason we're doing this is, rather than just gluing the pieces together right where the sticker is like this, we actually want to kind of nestle them together, which again doesn't restrict the movement at all, but makes the resulting cube look a lot nicer. Now as you can see, they don't seem to be fitting together all that well without any modification, so it's not as easy as just gluing them straight together. So I think first what we have to do is remove these little tubes. I think that'll make a lot more space. Okay, those were surprisingly easy to remove. Let's see if the 2 cubes fit together a little bit better now. And yeah, that is a much more snug fit. I think it'll be best to take them apart before we try and glue them, which luckily is pretty easy to do. The mechanism is very similar to a 2x2, so all you have to do is turn a layer 45 degrees, making sure that the hidden inner layer doesn't turn along with it, and then just pop out an edge, just like that, and then the corner comes out very easily. So here are the 2 modified corners, and here is how we want to arrange them to make our fused 2x2x3s. As you can see, when we put them like this, they kind of slide around a little bit. What we actually want is the 2 pieces to be just barely hovering against each other like this, which as you can see is not a very stable arrangement. In a perfect world, we might add some extra little bits of plastic on the inside to increase the surface area as we glue them together, which would make it a lot stronger. But for the time being, this is kind of just a proof of concept. So I'm just going to do the quick and dirty version and add some super glue at all the corners and then just hope that they stick together. Well, for better or for worse, they are now glued together, not especially well. Here it is with one cube assembled and the corner just sticking out like that. I think that looks pretty cool. And now we can stick it into the other cube like this and finish reassembly. And ta-da! The world's first fused 2x2x3s. That looks very unnatural, but very cool at the same time. And believe it or not, both cubes still are fully functional, so we can scramble up all the layers just like we normally would. Here are 2 little checkerboard patterns, by the way. Looks very nice. But you know what? This still doesn't even solve our problem. I bought 4 of these stupid 2x2x3s, and I am not ending this video until I have modded all of them. Now I know some of you out there are already thinking, is he gonna make quad fused 2x2x3s? If you don't know, this is a very common mass-produced mod, the quad fused mini 2x2s. And again, believe it or not, every one of these cubes is fully functional, even the ones in the middle, and it can make for a really funny solving experience when you're solving one cube and another cube starts flying all over the place like this. So the answer is yes, I am gonna make quad fused 2x2x3s. The process should be pretty much exactly the same as fusing these 2 together. We just have to do that an additional 2 times. So just take everything apart, cut out those tubes from the corners, glue everything together, and then reassemble. Let's go ahead and start the time lapse. Ta-da! I call it the 2x2x3x4. Get it? Because there's 4 of them. This thing is an absolute monstrosity. It is massive. Just to give you some perspective, here is the 30 centimeter 3x3, and this thing is considerably longer. But besides being a little bit unwieldy, again, all 4 of them are fully functional, so you can do some crazy things like this and kind of move the cubes around relative to each other. So one fun thing you can do is to turn them all into one big chunky block, and then it's always fun to spin the middle layer around wildly like this. There's also some other fun arrangements. You can kind of have them staggered like this. There's also sometimes when one cube just straight up runs into another cube like this, and obviously it can't continue turning until you move that cube out of the way. And of course, we always have to try the old checkerboard pattern. It's a little bit tedious on here because we have to do it on all 4 puzzles, but eventually we can go ahead and complete it just like this, and that will look absolutely incredible. Now, of course, we're also going to go ahead and scramble it up. Not because I think it'll be especially interesting to solve, but just because I want to see what it looks like all scrambled up. Now I will say, as fun as this puzzle is, it is kind of impractical as something to just have sitting around on my shelf, and so I'm not totally convinced I want to leave them this way. In fact, I've kind of been thinking of an alternate mod that I could make in a very similar way by fusing the pieces together like I showed you earlier, that would result in a much different looking puzzle. So this time, rather than explain exactly what the plan is, I think I'm just going to go for it and see if it works out. The basic idea is, rather than having all the cubes in one straight line, I want to try and make them go in a circle. I'm a little bit afraid that it'll restrict the movement too much and the cubes won't be as interesting to solve, but you know what? I think it'll look so cool that it'll be worth it. So let's go ahead and start the time lapse. Okay, are you ready for the most bizarrely attached twisty puzzles you've ever seen? Well, here it is. The quad fused 2x2x3s in the shape of a donut. When I was first thinking of this design and realized it would just be a 1x1 hole through the center, I realized that was the most amazing thing and I just had to make it. Even though it takes up a pretty decent amount of space, I mean, here it is compared to a 3x3, I just love how they're interlocked in such a compact seeming way. Like, there's no other way that you could attach the 4 of these so tightly, yet still have them all be able to turn pretty much unimpeded. Like, look at how much clearance there is. They just barely slide past each other. Even the middle layer can turn like this for a nice little checkerboard. And here it is on all 4 puzzles, by the way, which looks very nice as usual. Now, even though you have this nice inner layer movement, which I absolutely love, the top and bottom layers cannot move relative to each other, so these cubes are definitely not fully functional. So that definitely makes things a lot easier to solve. Basically, these outer corner pieces can only be mixed up in one of 6 positions, whereas the inner edge pieces can be mixed up however you could on the normal cube, but those weren't very interesting to solve in the first place. So if we just get one of these nice and scrambled up here, basically how I would solve it is take a look at the corner pieces, do 2 or 3 moves to get it solved just like that, and then take a look at the inner pieces, and from here I can just do a few moves like this, and there we go, it's solved. So I have made them pretty trivial, but it's still fun to mess around with. You can also do some fun stuff like this, sort of get them stuck together in the middle, and if you do that on both sides, you kind of create this weird squash triangular shape. Looks pretty cool. Another fun position is if you turn all these outer layers sort of halfway like this, that creates this cool little circle in the middle and this fun little up and down circular shape. Oh, and of course, you can always just turn all the middle layers halfway and create some sort of crazy donut ninja star looking shape. Isn't that awesome? Now, I wasn't 100% sure on the color scheme. As you can see, I ultimately decided to do all green on one side, all blue on the other, with red around the outside, which means that the white and yellows are just sort of alternating like this. Another way to do it would have been to have the one sticking out be green and the other ones be blue. That way it could be the same on both sides, green, green, and blue, blue. But the nice thing about these 2x2x3s is that if I ever want to change it, all of the corner pieces have caps, so I can basically just pop them all off and swap them around to whatever color scheme I want. And man, when I was super gluing these earlier, I wasn't really sold on how strong they would be, again with such little surface area between the 2 corners, but I was amazed at how difficult that glue was to break apart on the original fused 2x2x3s, so I'm not worried about strength at all anymore. I think these will stick together just fine. So yeah, I guess the moral of the story is, if you have any leftover New Year's decorations, you can always just turn them into donut ninja stars. I hope you all enjoyed the process of creating this rather unique but very cool looking mod, because that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys next time.